Throughout history, every great transformation has been preceded by adversity. The most inspiring testimonies are not born from ease and comfort, but from those who walked through fire and emerged refined. If you are enduring hardship, it is not because you are forgotten. It is because God is preparing you for something greater than you can currently comprehend, the unseen hand of God in your trials. We are quick to judge our situation based on what we see, but what we see is not the full story. Imagine a sculptor chipping away at a block of stone. To the stone, the process feels like destruction, but to the sculptor, it is creation. What looks like loss in your life may, in reality, be God's way of shaping you into something remarkable. Every trial serves a purpose. It strengthens you, humbles you, and refines you. Without resistance, a seed cannot break through the soil. Without fire, gold remains impure. What feels like breaking is often the very process by which God is making you whole. When God seems silent, He is at work. One of the greatest tests of faith is trusting God when nothing seems to be changing. When doors close, when prayers go unanswered, when hope seems distant, it is then that we must hold on. God's silence is never a sign of His absence. It is often the moment before a great revelation. Look at the greatest stories in Scripture. Joseph was betrayed, imprisoned, and forgotten before he was elevated to a place of power. Job lost everything before he received double blessings. Even the darkest night of Jesus' crucifixion led to the dawn of resurrection. The pattern is clear. Suffering is not the end of the story. It is the doorway to something extraordinary. Faith, the key to unlocking blessings. What, then, is required of us in these moments? Faith. Not the faith that demands immediate relief, but the faith that trusts in the unseen, believing that the current struggle is producing a future blessing. Faith is not about understanding every step of the journey. It is about trusting the one who leads. A child does not understand why a loving parent allows discomfort, yet the parent sees the bigger picture. Likewise, our limited perspective cannot grasp the depth of God's plan, but He asks us to trust Him. From suffering to blessing, the divine exchange. If you feel overwhelmed, take heart. God does not waste pain. The suffering of today will be exchanged for the blessings of tomorrow. What the enemy meant for harm, God will use for good. The trials you endure today are not signs of failure, but of preparation. They are shaping you for something greater than you can see. In time, you will look back and realize that what you thought was breaking you was actually building you. Your story is still being written. The struggles are real, but so is the promise. God will turn your tough situation into great blessings. Hold fast, for your breakthrough is coming. Difficulties often arrive uninvited, disrupting the course of our lives and leaving us questioning their purpose. It is natural to wonder why challenges arise, especially when we are striving to do what is right. But what if trials are not interruptions to our journey, but rather necessary parts of it? What if they are not obstacles preventing growth, but tools shaping us into something far greater than we could have imagined? Consider a seed buried beneath the soil. In darkness, it undergoes pressure, change, and discomfort. Yet, without this process, it would never break open, take root, or grow into something strong and fruitful. In much the same way, our hardships are not meant to destroy us, but to transform us. They push us beyond our limits, breaking old patterns and forcing us to develop strengths we did not know we had. At first, trials seem cruel and unnecessary, but they serve a divine purpose. They strip away false securities, exposing what is fragile within us so that we may be rebuilt on a firmer foundation. A person who has never faced difficulty remains untested, much like a blade that has never been sharpened. It is through pressure, friction, and refinement that the blade becomes strong and useful. Likewise, without trials, our character remains underdeveloped, our faith weak, and our endurance untested. There is a misconception that ease and comfort are signs of divine favor, while hardship signals abandonment. But history and scripture tell a different story. The greatest figures, those who left a lasting impact, were forged in the fire of adversity. They faced opposition, loss, betrayal, and suffering, yet these very experiences prepared them for their destiny. Had they been spared their struggles, they would never have reached the fullness of their purpose. Pain has a way of revealing who we truly are. In moments of trial, our deepest beliefs, fears, and weaknesses come to the surface. These revelations are not meant to shame us, but to guide us toward growth. We cannot overcome what we refuse to confront. A person unaware of their weaknesses cannot strengthen them. Hardships bring clarity, stripping away distractions and illusions, leaving us face to face with the areas that need refining. Growth is rarely comfortable. It demands sacrifice, persistence, and an acceptance of uncertainty. Yet, when we endure, we emerge with wisdom that no book could teach, with faith that no sermon could instill, and with a strength that only experience could build. A tree that grows in constant sunshine without facing wind or storms develops weak roots. It is the resistance against strong winds that forces the roots to dig deeper, making the tree unshakable. The process may be painful, but the purpose is undeniable. Every struggle contains within it the seeds of transformation. What appears as a setback is often a setup for something greater. What feels like a loss may in time reveal itself to be a gain beyond measure. A door that closes may be preventing disaster, redirecting us towards something far better than we had planned. Perspective is everything. If we view trials as meaningless suffering, we become bitter and discouraged. But if we see them as preparation, as refinement, as a necessary stage in our development, we can endure them with faith and hope. The weight we carry today is strengthening us for the responsibilities of tomorrow. The burdens we bear now are molding us into people capable of handling the blessings that await. Trials do not come to break us, but to build us. They reveal, refine, and prepare. Though we may not see it in the moment, there will come a time when we look back and recognize the hidden purpose in every hardship. And when we do, we will realize that the struggles were never meant to destroy us. They were meant to prepare us for something far greater. Waiting is one of the hardest tests of faith. When prayers seem unanswered, when solutions seem delayed, and when hope feels distant, it is natural to wonder if God has forgotten us. Yet, his silence is not indifference, it is divine timing at work. What appears to be a delay is often preparation. What seems like an unanswered prayer is, in reality, God orchestrating events beyond our understanding. Timing is everything. A seed planted today will not bear fruit tomorrow. The process of growth is invisible at first, taking place beneath the soil where roots are strengthening before the first sign of life appears. In the same way, God works in the unseen before revealing his plans. The delay is not denial, it is the necessary process of strengthening us before the blessing arrives. Impatience often blinds us to the wisdom of waiting. We desire immediate results, forgetting that what comes too soon is often unprepared, and what is unprepared cannot endure. A foundation must be laid before a structure can rise. Rushing the process weakens the outcome. A fruit picked before its time is bitter, just as a blessing received too soon may not be a blessing at all. There is a reason why God does not always answer when we expect. What we see is limited, but his vision extends beyond time itself. What feels like a delay may be protection from something unseen. What seems like an unanswered prayer may be a blessing in disguise. Sometimes the things we desperately want are not what we truly need. Sometimes waiting is God's way of leading us toward something far greater than we originally asked for. History is filled with examples of divine timing. Joseph was given a vision of greatness, yet he spent years in slavery and prison before stepping into his destiny. Every moment of waiting prepared him for the position he was meant to hold. Had he reached it too soon, he would not have been ready. The waiting was not wasted, it was training. David was anointed king while still a shepherd, but he did not ascend the throne immediately. He endured hardship, opposition, and exile. Yet, through these trials, he developed the strength, wisdom, and faithfulness required to lead. The promise was given early, but the fulfillment came in its appointed time. The waiting was not punishment, it was preparation. Moses was called to deliver his people, but spent 40 years in the wilderness before stepping into his purpose. Had he led them prematurely, he would not have been equipped for the task. The wilderness was not a delay, it was necessary refinement. Jesus himself waited 30 years before beginning his ministry. If even the Son of God submitted to the process of divine timing, how much more should we trust that our own seasons of waiting serve a purpose? The frustration of waiting is often rooted in our limited understanding. We measure time by our own desires, but God operates on an eternal scale. He sees what we do not. He knows what we need before we ask. He prepares the path before we walk it. And he brings the right opportunities at the right time. Trusting his timing requires surrender. It means letting go of our need for immediate answers and choosing faith over frustration. It means believing that every closed door, every delay, and every season of silence has a purpose. It means understanding that just because something is not happening now does not mean it will never happen. Preparation often feels like stagnation, but it is anything but. The waiting season is where character is built, faith is strengthened, and endurance is developed. It is where we learn to trust without seeing, to hope without knowing, and to believe without proof. And when the time is right, what once seemed delayed will arrive in its fullness, perfectly aligned with the plan that was always meant to be. Gold in its raw form is not as valuable as it could be. It is mixed with impurities, lacking the brilliance and purity that make it precious. To become what it was meant to be, it must pass through fire. The intense heat melts away what does not belong, leaving only the purest form behind. Without the fire, gold remains in its unrefined state. Without trials, we remain in ours. Hardships are not meant to destroy us, they are meant to refine us. Just as fire removes the impurities from gold, challenges remove what weakens us. Pride is broken, patience is tested, faith is strengthened. Every struggle strips away something unnecessary, shaping us into what we are meant to become. Growth does not happen in ease and comfort. It happens when we are forced to rely on something greater than ourselves. Pressure is not pleasant, but it is necessary. A diamond is formed under immense pressure. Without it, the carbon remains ordinary, never reaching its full potential. A blade is sharpened through friction. Without the grinding process, it remains dull and ineffective. A muscle only grows when it is stretched and torn through resistance. Without effort and struggle, it remains weak. Every example in nature mirrors the reality that refinement comes through difficulty. Pain often feels unnecessary, but in hindsight, it reveals its purpose. The moments that seemed unbearable were the very moments that shaped resilience. The disappointments that felt crushing were the very experiences that led to wisdom. The times of loss and brokenness were not the end of the story. They were the beginning of transformation. What once felt like suffering later proves to be the very thing that prepared us for greater things. Refinement is not a process we choose. It is a process we are chosen for. No one willingly seeks pain, yet it comes to all. The difference is in how we respond. Fire can either destroy or purify, depending on how it is endured. Some allow hardships to make them bitter, while others allow them to make them better. The same fire that hardens clay softens gold. The same storm that uproots a weak tree strengthens the deep roots of a strong one. Patience is built in waiting. Courage is built in fear. Strength is built in struggle. Wisdom is built in failure. Without these experiences, we remain untested, unproven, and unprepared for the greater things ahead. The refining fire is not a punishment, it is a process of preparation. Every hardship endured with faith is an investment in a stronger, wiser, and more resilient future. Greatness is never born from comfort. Those who have impacted the world were not shaped by ease. They faced trials, rejection, and suffering. Yet these very experiences made them who they were. The hardships they endured gave them the depth, wisdom, and strength needed to fulfill their purpose. Had they been spared the fire, they would have remained ordinary. It was through the fire that they became extraordinary. We often pray for strength, but resist the process that builds it. We ask for wisdom, but struggle against the lessons that teach it. We desire faith, but fear the situations that require it. Yet, it is only through the refining fire that these qualities are truly developed. A life without trials is a life without growth. A faith untested is a faith unproven. Endurance is forged in struggle. A soldier is not made in times of peace, but in the trials of battle. A ship is not built for still waters, but for surviving the storm. A person is not strengthened in comfort, but in overcoming difficulty. The refining fire is not something to be feared, it is something to be embraced. It is the evidence that transformation is taking place, that something greater is being shaped, that what is temporary is being removed so that what is eternal may remain. The fire is painful, but it is purposeful. It does not come to destroy, but to reveal, refine, and prepare. The process may be difficult, but the result is worth it. And in time, what was once seen as suffering will be recognized as the very thing that made us into who we were always meant to be.